Oh, hey everybody. Okay, so in my last video, I promised you guys an update on DIA-NN, and they came out with a new version 2.3 maybe a couple weeks ago. And so there's been some significant changes to the way it works in the GUI, so I thought I'd release a new one. My last one is about 2 years old, and I think I did it on 2.1.2 or 6. I don't remember. But there's a couple significant changes to 2.3, so I thought it'd be a good time to do it. Although I think if you watch my old one, you could probably muddle your way through that too. Oh, you guys liked my hat the last video, so I have another hat from my grandfather. It is a Knox New York hat, probably from 1940, 1950s, from Wayland's, Detroit, Michigan. So that's where he's from. So it's a 1940s, 1950s fedora. And I have a couple more I think you guys will like too, so I'll have to figure out another video to make for it. So anyway, let's go to DIA 2.3. So again, this is software we use to search our DIA data we generate on both our Orbitraps and our timsTOFs. And you can get it by Google searching DIA-NN, and it will come up with the GitHub site. This has really excellent documentation, by the way, so you don't even need to watch this video. But we are using 2.3, so we go to DIA-NN 2.0, click that, go all the way down to the bottom, and you could see DIA-NN 2.3.0 Academia Preview. This is the one we're using. So you download it to Windows, and then I believe I have it open. And so you just search for it in your search box, open up DIA-NN 2.3, and you'll see a couple new things that were not in the last version. There'll be a new box for calibration library. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. It has to do with this new infini search. And that's one of the newest things in here. And you'll see this new mode here called InfinDIA Presearch. If you look at the instructions, it has some pretty good instructions about what it is. So it's a fundamentally new module, infinite search space DIA analysis. There is a bioRxiv paper, I think, about this maybe. And it kind of basically what it does is it's a very fast way to search lots of a large search space, whether it's you have a search space of 5 different proteomes, or you have one proteome with like 15,000 PTMs or some sort of obscene number of PTMs. It allows you to search it really, really fast. And it seems to be maybe a little less sensitive than the other way. I did some tests we could go through at the end, but it seems to work pretty good. And so let's pull up DIA again. And so the way we do this is we load our either raw files or our timsTOF files here in the box. Let's see, you click that. I have some, stuff here. Let's see, there's some data from our short course I can make available. And so you just select these are timsTOF files, the ones we want. I have 10 here. And so these are 10 straps versus 10 SP3 digests from the short course we did this year. I just picked the top 5 from each set. And when I say top, the top number of peptides, I've already searched these, so I just picked the ones that look the best. And so what we want to do initially, I'm going to clear it. So we're just importing. I think I have the infini instructions correct. I'm just going to select one file, and what we're going to do is make a small calibration library. I think I got this correct. We're going to add the FASTA. This one is mouse. Currently, there's a small bug in 2.3.0 where if there's any unusual amino acids in your FASTA, like B's or Z's, it'll crash. And so it works with human, but it doesn't work with mouse right now. So I had to make a cleaned, here, let's clear this. I had to make a cleaned version of this, of the mouse proteome. And there it is. It was clean. So I just put it through ChatGPT and I said remove all non-standard amino acids besides U and O. And I think it removed B and Z. So as long as you remove the B and Z amino acids, you should be fine. And those again are, I think, deamidation when it's ambiguous. So there's a couple of these in mouse. There's 6 of them in mouse apparently. There's none in human. So if you're going to search it with mouse, it'll crash until you cleaned it. All right. So according to the instructions, and I think I have this correctly, we make a little tiny calibration database. So when using InfinDIA pre-search, it's recommended to either fix the calibration mass accuracy to a low value, or even better, use a calibration library to provide DIA-NN with a spectral library it can use for quick calibration beforehand. And so we're going to do that. And I think it gives you instructions here. So you can select, you could put these in the little box, pre-select the top 100,000, pre-select force, delimit the number of precursors by the infini pre-search. Do we do that? I think so. Quickly creating empirical libraries or fast tuning with ref. Well, this is how I did it, and I'm not sure I did it correctly, but we will put these here. Yes, we'll paste that. And then I just hit run. Well, I set the output and set the main output and the library output. I set run. I saved these to a calibration one. It took, it took a couple minutes. And I also set the for timsTOF for this 15. And I think I did 15. And then it finished that. And then when I'm done, it makes this little library, which I saved in this calibration output. And I'm going to load the speclib library here. Let's see. Into the calibration. And then I'm going to add my FASTA, and then because it can search a lot of PTMs like really, really fast, I selected deamidation, oxidation, acetyl, and I didn't do phosphorylation. That probably you wouldn't identify much anyway without enrichment, and I didn't do ubiquitination, although I think you could probably add those too. And then that took a couple minutes, made that library, and then I added all of my other ones, so I had 10 total. I put those here, so added the 10 files, and then I put XIC, I set my output, generated another spectral library, I did my output library, I told it where it would go, I got rid of these, I don't need them anymore, I think. It also shows you, let's see if we can show this here. Let's see, when I did my InfiniSearch calibration, and you look at the log file, it should tell you at the bottom what to set your mass accuracy to. Let's see. It says it somewhere. Where does it? I think it says it at the bottom. I know it says it's somewhere. Let's see. Okay. I think it's probably in the log files somewhere. Can't find it right now. It's definitely in one of these files somewhere. So if you search for it, it'll tell you what to set your MS to. I swear it was in the log file. Maybe not. Anyway, we'll come back. Maybe I'll find it and put it in the comments section. Let's see. Anyway, I won't mess with it right now. Over here, for example, it's saying recommended MS1 accuracy 14. I wonder if those are the same for all of them. No, I think this is down at the bottom. All right, so the second pass, it's telling us recommended MS1 accuracy 14. We're going to put that for the MS2. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. And it also tells you how many scans you should do for the scan box. And I believe for this one it was like 6, I think. I think that's in there somewhere too. Let's see. Anyway, that's in there somewhere. Probably in the log file. Okay, so we're going to set this at like 14, and I think it told me to set the scan window at 6, I think, which seemed kind of low, but maybe I'm misremembering that. That should be in the log file somewhere. And then, I changed the max variable modifications for 2. I wouldn't go too much above 2. I don't know, maybe 3 if you're pushing it. But I think above 2, you're likely to get a lot of wrong results, I think. And then I hit run, and it should run. And I didn't change anything else. Let's see. If you want to save these settings, what you can do is you can add it to a step. Just call it like infini search, and then you hit add step. And if you wanted to change this to the regular search, the traditional way, I would get rid of this. I don't know if you can leave that in there if it matters. Maybe it would even make things better. I don't know, but then you would change this to predicted fast A. Leave this in here. I also selected contaminants. I did that in the first step too. And I think that's the only difference. And then we can add this to a step. We'll call it traditional predicted fast A. Add that as a step. And here, look, you can go back and I will update. I will add contaminants, and you just hit update. And now you have your 2 search settings. So these should search one after the other if you wanted to do it both at once. I believe we did this. I did this correctly. Oh, nope. And so I don't want to turn on all of these on the traditional search. I'll leave that here and I'll update that step. So now we have that correct, I think, right? I think that's all correct. I think we did this correctly, but I'm not entirely sure. Make sure to set your main output in your output library. Click your generate XICs. I always like the PDF. And then once you have this saved here, another tip for you guys is if you hit the save button, you could save this pipeline, DIA, and then 2.3 pipeline, and then you can load it again. That load, open a pipeline, and then you'll have all of your settings for how many searches you wanted to do, and it should run it right after the other. So let's look at the output, and let's see when you're done. Let's look at the file. Okay, and this is the results from the infini search. You should see a ton of different files in your directory. You'll have the directory for your XICs. You can get an XIC viewer through here. You just hit a viewer, and then once you set that main output or output file, it should do that. I think was that the, let's see, XIC, I believe so. If you save this, just give it a baloney name. Does that work? No, maybe you do main output. Let's see. Main output, let's try that. And then viewer, let's see, what does that say? Report XIC not found, so I have to save it as remember, but I saved it as the last time. I think I saved it as that one. Is that right? Have to strap repeat. I believe, maybe. You have to do this a couple times before it works, I guess. Viewer, yeah, anyway, you have to save it. You can get the viewer working eventually by playing around with it. I did get it to work. It took a couple minutes for me to realize what I was doing. That was stupid. All right, so once this is done, it should run. but I'm not going to run it because I ran it already. And I think if we try these settings, I don't think it will. I think it will run just fine. Okay, so let's see. What do we have in the output? We have the calibration stuff, which I ran the first run to get the small calibration library, and then I ran the last 10. What's kind of cool is, remember the PR matrix, those are your precursors, so you can think of those as multiply charged peptides. Your protein group matrix, and there should be a gene group matrix here. Just remember, if you're using a weird non-UniProt database, your gene group matrix can be really messed up because it doesn't have the gene information. So I ran into this a lot with some weird organisms I was running that didn't have the gene information encoded in the FASTA, so that will be messed up. So it's somewhat safer sometimes to look at protein groups. And again, we can open this, and I don't know why Excel does that. And you basically see the protein group, protein names, your genes, first protein description, and the protein group. So you can see there's 2 proteins in this protein group here. You can see this is all these garbage immunoglobulins. The number of sequences, number of proteotypic sequences, and those would be proteotypic, I think, depending on your definition that you told Diane. So proteotypicity genes. So if those peptides are only in 1 gene, I think they would be labeled proteotypic. If they're in 2 genes, they wouldn't. And you can see here, we just proved this to ourselves. There's actually 2 genes here, and you can see the proteotypic or entry here is 0, which means this one protein is, these are not proteotypic. It could be either. And then here's your expression values for all of the samples, and then you can see I have some missing values here. So these are sorted by bead. So you can see this one, for example, we can tell just by looking at it by eye, this protein was only in the bead samples and not in the S-trap samples. That's weird. It's one of these immunoglobulin garbage, heavy variable, heavy chain baloney. I usually kind of just throw all these out. I don't think they're very useful. But why this was just in the beads and not the S-trap, I don't have any idea. All right, so we can look at that, and I'm not going to save that. What's cool about this is you have all these files with these Unimod 1 sites. This is Unimod 1, and that is the Unimod number. So if you go to Unimod, and you say login as guest, and you sort by session number, you can see which ones they are. So 1 is acetyl, 4 is carboxyaminomethyl, 7 is deamidation, so you can find out what those are there. I think that's actually a pretty interesting way for Diane to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's kind of neat. So anyway, here's the protein, and these are all the proteins and peptides that have that acetylated modification. You can see it's here, residue. So this is the residue, I guess. But which residue? I don't know. That's interesting. Site 2. So there we go. Residue, alanine, site 2. So it would be this one. All right. That's kind of neat. And so, for example, residue S. That's interesting. Unimod 1. So is it saying that's acetylated? Wait, which site? That's interesting. Why do we have 2 here? I think I accidentally have 2 copies. I don't know why. And that's interesting. Why does it say Unimod 1? All right, let's look at something else. Don't save. And then this is 7. And that's deamidation, right? Okay, so that makes more sense. And in Q. Okay, so there's all... Oh, and this is the site on the protein, I would guess, not on the peptide. So that would be 473. Let's see, that's interesting. I wonder why they do it that way. There must be a reason. So this is the peptide sequence. I guess you can't tell from here. I guess it would be this. There's only one N. But you'd have to look at the other report to get exactly what site that's on. And I can show you. That should be in your PR matrix. Okay, so I should do that. Let's see. So you can see here under modified sequence, there's that Unimod 1, and that should be that alanine at the beginning, and you'll also see probably some 7s. Let's see, here's 35, oxidized methionine. It tells you this methionine right here is oxidized. And so that's kind of cool. So you can actually get the site here. Okay, that's neat. All right. Let's see, I actually compared these two, so I ran these both ways. So I had a data set that was 41 Orbitrap files. These were files on our Lumos. Now Lumos is getting really old, and so we had to run these for a very long time to get reasonable data. So these were 90 minutes a piece, so I searched 41 of these, which is quite a big, it's quite a large data set. And so this took, the infini search with all of those PTMs took 179 minutes. I believe that's minutes. And then the regular with the PTM, with the predicted fast date, took 308 minutes. And you could see the infini search was slightly less, well, significantly less sensitive. So it went from about 3,000 proteins identified to 2,743. These were the average proteins per over all those 41 samples. You can see it went down, and the number of precursors actually went down. So even though you're searching for a lot more PTM modified precursors, you actually identify less. And then here's my second data set I ran. These were 10 timsTOF files, the ones I'm showing you right now. Surprisingly, the regular search, the predicted, this is a whole mouse proteome, took slightly less time than the infini search, which surprised me because this one took like half the time. So it doesn't, at least from these two comparison sets, it looks like I don't see a big speed advantage for timsTOF files like I do for Orbitrap files. I wonder, but I've only done this once, so maybe if I try it again, I'll pay attention and see how long it takes. And you could see again, there's a significant drop in the number of proteins. Oh, these are 10, these are 100 samples per day, which I believe are like 12 minutes. And so this one, average proteins for the regular predicted fast day search for 5,720. The ones for the new infini were 4,907. So a significant drop. And then you could see a significant drop in precursors too. So even though we're searching for far more things, we're actually identifying less, and that's probably has to do with the, because the search space is higher and we're doing more multiple testing correction or something along those lines, I'd imagine. All right, so what I did was, so that's basically it for the new Diane. It's super easy to use. Let's see, I did analyze this data set a little more. Let's see, where did I put here? Let's see, we can get rid of that. No, why is this not working? Let's see. Maybe I can just open it here. So let's see. I put these, so ChatGPT is surprisingly good at analyzing Diane output data sets. It even learned I used Diane. So I uploaded both of these. I've uploaded the PR report, and I renamed this just so it's easier to keep track of. But these are the PR matrix reports. And let's see. So this is the infini search with all those PTMs I put on there. Let's see. So this one said I identified with the predicted fast day search 5,769. This one said 5,045, and you could see the number of precursors went from 82,000 to 67,000. So it's saying 22% more peptides, 14% more protein groups. So that's a significant drop. What else did I do? Let's see. I had to tell it was using the Unimod numbers, which took a little bit, but it figured it out. All right, so in the infini search, we identified, let's see, where's the table? We identified 13,897 carboxyaminomethyls. In the traditional search, we did 17,200. So it's less, even though these were fixed on both of them, which is, kind of, anyway, we're identifying less with this search. For oxidized methionine, we identified 3,389. The predicted FASTA 0, because we didn't search for that. We identified 3,032 deamidations. The traditional search 0, of course, we didn't search for it. And the acetylation 646. All right. Okay. I also went and took these and searched them through LIMPA. So if you did the differential expression through LIMPA, and the results were pretty fascinating. So if you want to look at my LIMPA video that I did last week, it'll tell you how I did it. Okay, so the PTM, which is the infini search, I just labeled it PTM. 5,045 proteins tested. The predicted FASTA 5,769. Let's see, this detected 284 upregulated proteins, this 260. So even though we identified less, we're identifying more things that are upregulated. I thought that was interesting. We identified less things that were downregulated. So 207 for the infini search, 290 for the traditional predicted FASTA. And what else was interesting? I looked at the log2 fold change. So this is the log2 fold change of the proteins in the samples. Not only the ones that were significantly different. Well, I guess they would be the one, yeah. Whether they were significantly different or not, depending on my criteria filter, my Q value and log2 fold change. So you can see it was pretty comparable. So an R squared of 0.81, and this is, let's see, this is the FASTA. Stop. This was the FASTA, predicted FASTA on the x-axis, and the infini search on the y, and you can see they're pretty comparable, at least to the log2 fold changes of the proteins. Now this is interesting. I looked at the adjusted p-value comparison between the predicted FASTA and the infini search, and it's not really correlated well at all. I mean, it is somewhat correlated, but I don't know how to read that. I mean, it looks like the more intense ones for the adjusted p-values are similar, but once you get here, I don't know. This is the negative log 10. So once they're in here, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be much correlation. Okay. So moderate agreement, but it's weird. Why would it not be more consistent? I don't know. That's interesting. Let's see. What else did it say? Oh, this is interesting. This is the number of peptides per protein for both the predicted FASTA and the PTM, the infini search. It seems to be pretty correlated. You can see it goes down a little bit, right? So even though we're searching for all of these modifications, we're still identifying less peptides per protein overall. So I believe the average, or the mean, is 16.3 versus 13.7. All right, this is interesting. So, and then you could kind of see this here in this plot. So this is the infini search minus the predicted FASTA per protein, and you can see they're kind of on this side of the zero, which means for the vast majority of things, we're identifying less peptides per protein. All right. Let's see. And We had 587 proteins in this data set that had more peptides when we did the infini search, and 3,626 that actually had fewer. 720 that had the same. So 74% had fewer quantified peptides in the infini search compared to the regular one. However, there were some that were pretty crazy. So look at this one. These are the top 20 proteins that gained peptide coverage with the infini search. Here's one that only had one peptide in the traditional FASTA predicted one, and it went up to 63 in the infini search. And I guess if this was the protein you're interested in, this should be the search you do. And so this one went from 214 to 257, 125 to 161, 11 to 32. So anyway, these are the top 20, and if these are the proteins of interest that you're interested in, this would be the right way to do the search, but I guess you don't know that till after. Let's see. And so I just went and looked at some of the deamidations. And so anyway, that's it. Long story short is Diane is still super easy to use, pretty fast. The infini search here works. And you can select all these different PTMs. It'll search for them, but you will get significantly less proteins and peptides identified overall. But it seems it would still be super useful for especially Orbitrap data because it seems to work a lot faster. I'll have to do the timsTOF data again to see if that's consistent. So anyway, that's it. Super easy. You can put these cut the Parquet file right into Limpa. I can put all of this data on the BioShare for you with the Limpa code to do it. So that's it. I didn't test Skyline, and I didn't test didn't look at the XICs because I searched it earlier and closed the window. But it should work just the same as the last time. You generate a Skyline file. You can view these in Skyline. I'm really happy with this version of Diane. It seems really kind of neat. I like it. So anyway, if you guys have any comments or questions, just post it on the video page, and that's it. Pretty similar to the last video I did 2 years ago, and the results are pretty impressive. Okay, all right. Thanks everybody. Oh, one last thing. This is free for academia, so if you're in academia, you should try it. I'm probably going to have a hands-on course on doing this in person, probably 2 or 3 times a year. So if you're at UC Davis or you're in the area, look out for this. I'm just trying to set up the computer room, not in the summer, and I think we'll get 5 to 10 people, and we'll just analyze some data together. And I found when you do it in person, that way you run into issues, you can it's really much faster to have someone next to you that's done this before instead of beating your head against the wall for a day until someone tells you you're doing something wrong. Anyway, that's it. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.